Welcome back, brothers, to a very special episode of the 801st Legion podcast, a Star Wars Legion podcast. We're going to talk about what it's been like to have a podcast for the past year.
What?
Crazy stuff. But without further ado, punch it, Kyle.
Hello there.
You must unlearn
Dark
what you
side
have
of the
learned.
Force is a pathway to many abilities.
Red,
some
green, or
considered
red, green, red.
I know.
She'll do.
Sorry about the mess.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
General Kenobi.
Let's rearrange some architecture.
Is it possible to learn this power?
I thank you for your hospitality.
Twice the pride, double the fall.
Impressive.
I'll show you the dark side.
See, I thought I could do it this time, but you just do it so much better. So I guess I'll take the L. It's fine.
It's all fine here.
Oh my gosh. Well, Matthew, it's been a year of the podcast.
Woo!
Yeah. Cue the Return of the Jedi celebration music.
Yup, yup. Pop. Yeah. You know that? Because they changed the music, right?
I thought you were gonna go the doo doo doo.
Oh no, that's not. That's when they changed it to. But
where you could, and then in the special editions, you could see the Gungans celebrating.
Misa free. Oh yeah.
Again.
For like 30 years, and then it's all back to normal.
Misa can't wait for the First Order.
Oh, they did Jar Jar kind of bad.
In the Aftermath trilogy.
Have you heard about what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a street performer, right?
He is. Yeah, he's like a clown in a circus. he literally goes from being a clown in the movies to being a senator in the Clone Wars to being a clown again. And
Here's your clown emoji, sir.
Yeah, and this little kid is like, "Well, you seem funny to me," and he's like, "Good. You want to be in the circus too?" And they run off. It's like, okay, whatever.
Oh my
gosh.
Well, a year of the podcast, everyone. It's been one heck of a ride. We also had a fantastic milestone of 100 subscribers on YouTube. What? Like what the freak? You guys are mad lads. Thank you for all the support. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Honestly, we are both absolutely blown away. Absolutely blown away. I mean, I know everybody was. We announced it on Discord, and that was so cool to see. It's been such an amazing journey.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it started off so interestingly. I mean, that's kind of what we're going to get into today, honestly, is we're going to just go over how the podcast started. We're going to go over some hot questions, regarding Legion, because it's a Legion podcast. We're going to talk about Legion things. But I thought we thought it would be only fair to talk about, how we came upon being friends to podcast to a year later. I don't know. I just want to share before we get started, I do want to share some interesting tidbits with you from our analytics page, both on YouTube and other podcast platforms.
Yep. Google Podcasts.
Google
Apple
Podcasts. Yeah. So
Anchor, whatever.
Yeah. So we use Anchor as a beam source for pretty much everything aside from YouTube. YouTube kind of is our home base where, things are, they're much more searchable, right? Like you search for a Legion podcast about clone token sharing, boom, you could take your pick. It's not as easy to do on other podcast platforms, so YouTube definitely is our home base. But within a year, we have 100 subscribers. Actually, we're over 100 subscribers now, which I find absolutely ridiculous. But then if we go to other analytics, there's just so many interesting things we could pull from. Like if we're going over watch time, that's just a whole nother thing entirely. But yeah, I just, like I said, I kind of want to go over all of this. So like I said, 100 subscribers. In the last 30 days alone, we've had over 600 listens on YouTube, watch time of 160 hours. Imagine spending that much time. I know that's over a few people, but imagine spending that much time listening to two people talk about toys.
I don't know if I could spend that much time listening to you talk about toys.
So that's the end of the 801st podcast.
1 year and done.
This is how Liberty dies. By your friends making fun of you.
Those bad jokes. Yeah.
So we're looking at a lifetime analytic, and this is going to be kind of interesting for me, I think, but over 4,000 views, about 700 hours listened, 100 subscribers, impressions, which is like comments, likes, shares, and this includes outside sources. So like if you're like your Facebook or Twitter or
You're
anything like
linking
that.
it to somebody.
Yeah. 17,000 impressions. So 17,000 people have at least seen our content and interacted with it somehow.
Huge. That's massive.
Yeah.
That I'm not gonna lie. That's the one that gets me. That's
Yep.
crazy.
And that's like a lot of like, honestly, people that even like just stop, like YouTube can analyze like when someone's scrolling through their page and then they stop at like a thumbnail that they think is interesting.
Oh, and they scroll and they
And
see
then
the
they-
first couple minutes.
And then they just keep scrolling, right? Because it has the autoplay. So that's an impression to them. And so that's why you're seeing like 17,000 people, but only 100 subscribers. Because like
17,000 people were scrolling through YouTube when their friend talked to them.
Yes,
They got stuck.
exactly.
But that's a lot. Like
Yeah.
you never think it would get there, but
And that's just on YouTube alone. So like if we're talking about other platforms, so this is through Anchor, which is our beam to like it's Beam 4 actually. It beams to all of the other podcast platforms. So like you said, Google, Apple, Spotify, literally any podcast platform that has like any kind of merit to it, we're on it, hopefully. And that's 2,100 views or listens. Estimated audience of about 70 people per episode, which is awesome. And yeah, so like, and it's only growing. Like you go over every episode and it's just growing. And we bring this up not to like flex, but like, look how great the podcast is doing. It's more of like a, holy crap, thank you guys.
yeah, like you guys really are the ones who make this work. And we love the interaction you guys are giving. I think the Discord right now, like I'm on there multiple times a day. I can't always respond because sometimes at work and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the Discord is one of those places where it just keeps blowing up. So if you guys want, please check it out. We've got some spicy hot memes
Yeah.
in there. We've got some hot takes. We've got some discussion. A lot of people on there, like Simper on there. Oh my gosh, he's been posting some of the paint jobs he's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing. It's a cool place. Please do check it out. Links are always in the description.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting too, because like we could also look at like who we've met along the way that we wouldn't have even ever interacted with without a podcast, like people from different countries and just like all these people that we've met and become friends with, honestly. And it's really cool because like if you're looking at demographic wise, on YouTube, the United States is only 33% of our audience. Like what?
I know, right? And if you've been on the Discord, you know that some of the most active people, some of the coolest people we end up talking to are like Cupcake, Diffs, people who are in France, people who are in Finland,
Yep.
people who are out of there. It's a cool thing,
Yeah.
and I never thought that I would be talking and having good conversations with those people like all the time. I consider them friends now.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
I couldn't agree with you more.
If you want to see pictures of Diff's basement, I'm just kidding. I know it sounds
He'll send you a
creepy.
picture of his sauna.
Yeah, it sounds creepy. He actually has a really cool sauna, and I am jealous every cold day of this winter.
Especially when he just got colder again.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
Cold.
Anyways, a little Han Solo humor for you there. Okay, yeah. So, kind of getting into the meat potatoes of other things we want to talk about, besides numbers, because those are boring, right? We thought we'd give a little bit of insight, like, if you're new, you probably don't really, like, you're still kind of getting used to me and Matt talking. I'm the one that sounds like he has golf balls in his throat all the time. So my voice
flip-flop, actually.
But you always hate how your own voice sounds.
100%. I actually thought about this the other day. I was scrolling through YouTube after listening to the cast while I was at work, and I was on break, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll just put, like, look for, vocal lessons, like how to talk in a podcast. How to control
Just type in
yourself.
Google how to talk.
Yeah, Google's like, I don't know, man, I'm a robot. It just does it for me. But yeah,
Y'all need to chill.
honestly though, and it's one of those things where like you always hate hearing your voice. But yeah, we're definitely what we want to do today is kind of catch you guys up. It's gonna be more freeform. So we're gonna do like a year in review. Answer some questions like what are your favorite moments? What is your favorite this thing? And kind of let you guys get to know us a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because we'll be back to doing Legion topics, teaching, all that stuff next week. But this will be a more fun, like, year in review. How did we get here?
Yeah.
Where are we going? Episode,
Yeah.
like a watershed moment, I
Yeah.
guess you could say,
Yeah.
for that anniversary.
So let's just get started back like at the beginning. Like I was born in 1995. on a stormy weather night.
Oh no! It's okay. I could have started worse.
There, you could have been a youngling in the temple. I get it.
Oh. No.
Anyways, so Matt and I like kind of met through just tabletop games in general. Like, I had just started working here at Demolition Games, and I like newbie, right? Like I don't know, I was just doing my thing. I like kind of fun fact, like around this time, I kind of like gave up my old life. Like I wasn't really happy with the state of life I was living about 2 years ago now. So I just ditched it. I said, see ya. I disconnected myself from a lot of my like bad friends and like just all these people that I just didn't really like hanging out with anymore, that weren't really good influences on me. Don't get me wrong, there's some gems I hold on to. But I pretty much just like moved on to a whole new chapter in my life. Took a risk at a job at a game store that wasn't going to pay a whole lot, but I was like, dude, I love board games and I play this X-Wing game sometimes, so I might as well check it out. Like, not even a couple weeks in, this dude just comes into the shop to play a game of Armada, and I'm just trying to do the thing, and he starts talking to me, and I'm like, okay, this dude, like, he's all right, but like, man, he really wants to talk to me. Like, he just,
whoa, okay.
Not in a weird way, but I was like really impressed that like,
you're like, who the hell is this sociable guy? In the
I
game
know.
store?
I was like, up until that point, like, nobody really cared who I was. Like, oh, you're the new guy? Oh, okay. And I had gotten this impression from a lot of people, like, the store had like a lot of turnaround before, because people would come in and realize like, oh, it's a game store. I'm not getting fulfillment out of it. That's another episode for another day. But yeah, Matt totally caught me off guard. I'm like, dude, this guy actually like wants to have a real conversation with me about games, and he was just super cool right off the bat, you know, like he was just very awesome to be around, and I was just really impressed from that point.
You know, what's funny is that was like my first time coming for Armada, and I had like never played before.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was brand new to Armada, man. So like, yeah, background. You know, Kyle comes from X-Wing. We both come from X-Wing, and then I did Armada, and then that happened. And so yeah, like we got to get to know each other around that time, right?
Yeah, like I had just been playing the game a little bit with my brother. We liked board games, but we're like, hey, miniatures games are kind of cool, but that Warhammer stuff, I don't know. We actually played a demo of Legion at a convention, and we both really liked it, but it was like, I have to paint my own minis. It requires a huge table. And so we both were like, let's just do the small one. Needless to say, if out of all the games that FFG has made, X-Wing is probably the most gateway druggy of all of them.
That's okay. Hashtag legalize X-Wing.
Decriminalize.
Decriminalize X-Wing.
But like, okay, so from there, like, what happened? Like, how did we even get from first interaction to wanting to start a stupid podcast about toys?
Well, I failed at teaching you Armada.
Yeah, we did play a game of Armada.
It's funny because like we had a tournament for Armada, and Kyle comes up to me, he's like, "Yeah, how'd it go, man?" I'm like, "I did pretty good. I did not do very well. I thought I did because I was so new." And he's talking, he's like, "Yeah, well, there's that Legion game," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool. I guess it's 40K." And we decided, Kyle tells me that Clone Wars is coming out in like a month. And boom, I'm like, okay, we gotta try this out.
Yeah.
So I teach him Armada. It goes terribly. He's bored as hell. I know he is, which is funny because then I teach him again a month ago from today, and he's like, "This is actually a good game."
Yeah, it's like the true gamer was unlocked with Legion. I can understand movement now.
It works. Definitely Legion is the way. I love Armada, but Legion just hits so different. It's so good. But then we go to having Clone Wars come out, and for me, I got into the game then because I was like, you know what? Let's look into minis painting.
Yeah.
So I found Sarastro online, and I've watched his videos, and I wanted to paint Stormtroopers. Well, the cheapest way to get Stormtroopers was to buy a starter kit. Well, if I'm buying a starter kit, I might as well play with it. And the store had a starter kit that we could play with, which meant that we suddenly were playing, Kyle was the one I could play with. Since he was interested, we both started playing the game back and forth, which meant naturally I was the Empire and Kyle was the Rebels. At first. And the Clone Wars stuff got delayed, so that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But that's where we started, and I think that's where the arms war began.
Yeah, because like I remember we had done like a learner's game. And we were just so impressed. We were like, Vader can't be suppressed? What? and it was just this cool thing where like, well, okay, that's cool. But I remember distinctly saying like, yeah, I mean, I'll play with a store copy. And then like we had played like a game or two of like just a basic learner game just to kind of get comfortable with it. And then I remember us coming back like the next day, or not the next day, but like a week later, and the Clone Wars had come out. And Matt and I sat down to play, and he's like, I don't know about you, but like, I really like this game. I'm like, oh, dude, same. He's like, I know this is kind of weird to say, but like every night, like up until like 2 a.m., I'm like watching bat reps and like reading rules to understand the game better. He's like, and then I said like, oh, okay, good, because me too.
There's that moment we were both embarrassed to be like, do you like this game? Which is so funny because like I said, I played X-Wing, but X-Wing is such a beginner's game for minis wargaming and other stuff, because I feel like through that year I also played so many other games, at least tried them out. But yeah, dude, was it that day we bought the core set?
Yeah, we bought the core set.
We split it that day.
Yeah, because we were like, how do we do this? We don't want to each buy a core set. And you're like, well, I want to play droids. I'm like, well, I want to play clones. Let's just split these. So we bought a core box to begin with, and then not even like a week later, we bought another one so we could have more units.
Which is funny because then we had to go out and I bought my own third Clone Wars core set, and by that point, like we were just all in. We were all in.
Yeah, and I remember us playing like when that month or so, we were just like, you want to get a game of Legion?
Dude, it was like 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, and like we wouldn't even have to finish like saying anything. You'd be like, yeah, I know what you're gonna say. I want to play.
I'm coming.
And you didn't work here at that time. We just played like whenever, and that was just like, oh man. Pre-COVID even like
Pre-COVID, man.
Looking back at those okay, so you know how you always look back I can't even say it.
We're not even that old. You can't say
no, but I was gonna pull the Andy quote, like, you know when you look back and you wish like,
oh, you knew it was
the good old days.
Of course, the good old days.
I tried to say it, but I couldn't even say it without laughing.
It's not supposed to be a funny thing.
I know.
It's supposed to be this heartfelt.
I know, but it's Andy. So.
I know.
Anyways,
dog.
What I'm trying to say is that I look back at those days with like super fond memories, and I know those memories I'm gonna cherish forever. And I honestly, like, if it wasn't for like Matt and I like taking a chance on Legion, this weird game where we weren't sure. Well, I at least wasn't. I know Matt is going to say something different, but I wasn't sure if I could commit to a game that took 3 hours long. And
let's be real, our first couple of games were more than 3 hours long.
Remember that game where we were like we had to play in the front because I was working that night, and it was a slow day, so it wasn't like super crazy or anything like that. But like I remember like those guys that were kind of like mocking us low-key because we were like checking line of sight, and then I remember hearing things like, you see, that's why I'll never play war games or anything like that.
Which is so funny because now I feel like at the store people walk in and they're always like, oh shit,
like, Legion? What?
Legion? Marvel Crisis Protocol? Like, bro, that sounds awesome.
I'm so glad you brought those up because those guys that were saying that are now like super into Crisis Protocol.
Super! Which is funny because a lot of them played War Machine anyway, so it's like, It's super funny.
Man, anyways, but that's kind of like how we got to like playing Legion. Like a couple months passed of us just playing regularly, like 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes more, honestly. And then we just like we're like, okay, well, like what we want more, like maybe not playing, but like more podcasts. We got introduced to like the Fifth Trooper, Legion Outriders, like all these other
Legion Academy.
Yeah, Legion Academy, like all these fantastic content creators and Legion players out there that were doing great things. And then we just like, who proposed the idea of a podcast first even?
Well, it's funny, is like I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast at the time, but I don't know him. Like Joe Rogan, he has some ideas. He's a little off the deep end now. But mostly I was listening to all his podcasts at work, and I was like, do you want to try a podcast with this? Because it was something we were both kind of new to Legion at the time. It had only been out for like a year, and we were noticing that a lot of what was going on in our community, like the different stores around here, was kind of super different than what was going on at like competitive tier. And so we felt like that opened up this niche for another view of Legion, because I'm sure when you go to your local play store, you'll notice there's so many different players and play styles. We wanted to kind of express, maybe give a place for people to talk about their play styles, what they were seeing, still talk about competitive stuff if we want to, but also at the same time talk about like the other guy, what most people are playing, the game in general. Because if you, we could definitely cover those little niches. And I remember that was when we were both like, dude, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's try it out.
Yeah, because like I already had the resources, so it was like super easy. Like I run my own personal channel, and I think I remember like the earliest remembrance I can have of like us actually talking about the podcast was like we were playing up at a store up in northern Utah, and like the question was asked like should we actually do this? And I remember saying like, dude, I have it. If you're in, I'm in. Like I would love to do it because I've always wanted to do a podcast first of all, and like. Granted, we had only been playing the game for about 4 or 5 months at this time.
Oh man, was that like by that point it was like 4 or 5 months.
We were just so passionate about it. Like, I don't think like I've ever had a hobby or an interest of mine where I've hyperfixated that hard, and just become like enamored with everything that much.
Oh man, like I don't to put it in perspective for you guys because I know there's a lot of people who get a lot of Legion in. There were weeks where because Monday nights I would play Legion.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday nights, I was still playing Armada super consistently, so I'd play Armada on Tuesday nights. Wednesday nights, I would go up north. Thursday nights, I would go on down south. And then occasionally, on like Fridays and Saturdays, I would get a second or third game in either at demo, our store, or like go to another store and get another game with somebody. I even learned TTS at that point, so I was getting like 4 or 5 games a week in at the very beginning. Because, dude, it was just, I have never felt so sucked into something, and it's never felt just so good, and the community was great.
Yeah.
Still is.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Okay, so, like, yeah, the rest is history, right? Like, we made a podcast, and then we stopped for, like, COVID or whatever that's called, like, because we weren't getting any games in. But, like,
well, I think there's one thing that happened right before COVID.
Oh, yeah?
That was the tournament.
Oh, the tournament,
the first
right.
tournament.
Yeah,
and like,
can't forget that because that was huge.
That was there had been other tournaments, but I think that was kind of like, at least for the group here in Utah, I think that was the moment where we started to see a cohesive culture of Legion in the state. There had kind of been I don't want to say like disparate, like separated groups, but there had been a lot of like casual players who had picked it up a little bit, and there had been a tournament or two, and that's actually where I met Marshall. Was at the first tournament, my first tournament we went to. But then we held this one.
Oh, yeah, because you went to another store.
Yeah, another store where it was another small tournament. And we finally had this one where it was like the 16 people, which is enough to count as like a pretty decent size one. And that was like a week or two. That was like 3 weeks before COVID.
Yeah. It was like January, or no, maybe even February. But then it like definitely. Yeah. Because no, it couldn't have been January because that's when we started. Because we did the podcast. We had maybe done like 4 or 5 episodes. And then, like February is when I think that tournament took place.
The end of February, which is crazy to think about because I look at everybody who played there, and there were a couple people that had played since the beginning. There were the vast majority were people who had picked it up either in the past 6 months since Clone Wars, or between then, and it was so cool to see. I think that was a really big moment, and it's just gotten bigger ever since.
Yeah, because I remember this one interaction I had with Marshall here where. Where a lot of people were playing the new stuff because it's Clone Wars, and then like the tournament happens, and all of a sudden Marshall starts showing up to the store regularly to play, and he's playing Rebels, and I'm like, "Yo, who are you? Like this guy that's like."
Remember Rebels back then?
Yeah, I was just like, how? And he's not just playing; he's dominating. So I was like, this guy comes in out of nowhere that we've never even met before. Again, one of those situations where it's like we wouldn't have met them unless we took a chance on Legion. That was just a super interesting interaction because I was like, man, people actually dig the Rebels and Empire. Okay, well, I guess I'll buy that second faction,
So, keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, because like we were kind of getting stale with the Clone Wars boxes because there wasn't a lot to work off of.
Oh, dude, that was when we started to realize FFG was bad at
releasing stuff.
On time, especially. Yeah. Oh geez, that was some stuff.
And then like I remember we switched back to Empire and Rebels around that time, and then you're like, "Should I get the ATS?" I was like, "Yes, do it."
Played it 3 times.
Well, that's the thing too. Like that thing is super scary, especially looking back. Like putting myself in those shoes, I was like, that thing was intimidating to little old me. I'm like, my hits don't count at all. And then another unit that I remember hating so much was Boba Fett. And then you didn't really play him very much. You played him like once.
I played him twice.
Oh, you played him twice.
I played him twice. Once against you, and I think it was Ethan or somebody.
Yeah, somebody. But I kept on being like, dude, you need to play Boba Fett again because I want to see if this list is good against him. And then you're like, no, Boba sucks. And
bro, the game was so different back then. Like if you guys remember, I know a lot of you remember like Marshall and Josh, at least, people in the community, but I bet you guys can remember, at least in your own communities, how your own personal metas have evolved. Like, dude, here, I remember people talked about how good Tauntauns were in the upper level of the metas, but dude, at that time, it was all shore troopers.
Oh, yeah.
All shores. And so Boba was fine, but you just couldn't afford Boba Fett. But you could afford Bosk.
Yeah.
Bro, okay, hot take, dude. Bosk is super underplayed right now.
And we might get back to that in a bit.
We might get back to that.
But yeah, and then tournament happens, and we had been playing so much Legion and doing the podcast where I think we even talked about this like on an episode once, where it was just like, I'm kind of getting burnt out on Legion. Not to the point where we fell out of love with it, but it was like, I need a break. Yeah. And that's like when COVID hit, so it was kind of like perfectly timed to the point where in July we come back to playing at least some games.
Things normalized a little bit, and it was nice.
We didn't have a great turnout, but we had a couple tables running with Legion for a good bit there. And then I remember us talking about how that break, silver lining of COVID was that it was like at just the right time, because now we're like eating it up. And now I'm back in that phase where this year later, I'm like, oh man, I can't get enough. I want to play 2-3 games a week if I can.
I definitely feel like I think you put it exactly the right way. I've learned how to manage my Legion intake.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Exactly.
It's kind of like when you're running, long distance runners in races, they have to pace themselves. But if you just burn yourself out at the beginning, you're gonna burn your wick really fast, and you're gonna end up dying. But I feel like since then, I still get all the Legion fill I want. All the content, I learn a ton. We talk a ton about it. We build lists all the time. New people are coming in, new community members. But I'm not playing Legion 6 days a week.
Right.
And I'm meeting my familial and primary requirements again.
Yeah.
So my life is more in balance.
Yep.
The Force. Balance with the Force.
One might say we have lives. So
not wives yet. But lives, yeah. Man, I guess in the long run that brings us kind of back up to here, because then we had a lot of stuff going on there. And all that, but
yeah, okay, so you talk about balance, and one of our things on our notes that we want to talk about is other games we play. And that's a really great way to balance and not get overdone or burned out on a single game. What you played Armada, right? We came from different games. What other games did we play that kind of balanced out Legion? Even if we had some time for a game, we didn't always choose Legion. What are some other games we've really latched onto?
There's man. Do you want me to go through my list? Because this year,
go for it, man.
Because with Legion also brought me into contact with a bunch of other people who had been playing other games.
Yeah.
And that got me to play this year a little bit of 40K.
Yeah.
Middle Earth strategy battle game, which actually happened first. Shouts to Ethan Bennett. Super fun game. It is a good game. I don't know if it's for everybody. I will admit that. But I think it is. It is
indeed a battle strategy game.
Very much so. Very much so. If you wanted Warhammer Fantasy, but with a little bit more of maneuvering your pieces, that's the one. I actually ended up trying out what's the God Tier,
yes.
Steam Forge Games. That was another one we ended up trying out and playing for a little bit. You did Riot Quest.
I did, yeah.
Quest. And the big two that keep me kind of balanced here, I got back into X-Wing. Well, maybe not that one. So the big 12, I'll say in a second, but I got back into X-Wing. The big two are Marvel Crisis Protocol and, believe it or not, Magic the Gathering.
Ooh, yeah.
Which you may recall, we did an episode where we broke down what kind of players there are that you would see in your community. So you can kind of recognize ooh, these people play like this. Maybe I can have a better game experience, kind of meeting them in the middle.
Yeah.
I found that article because I was getting back into Magic for the first time in several years. And Mark Rosewater had been putting he'd released his article for the year about like how he'd been working on Magic, and that got me start thinking about his other articles in the past. But playing these various games gave me such insight into the mechanics of Legion and made me think a lot more about the breadth of it, as well as the different play styles and things. And but those two are the big two that kind of keep me alive right there: Marvel Crisis Protocol, Legion.
Yep.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that I played RideQuest there for a bit. It was a short-flamed love. Like, I really enjoyed it because of the company I was keeping with the game. COVID has made that harder to play with that group of people. So I haven't really played that game in a while now, actually. But I played a few games from Privateer Press. Like, I played RideQuest, tried Warcaster, their newer game. I've tried Monster Apocalypse, which that's probably my least favorite on the list. But yeah, and then like you, I dabbled to try and see if I could find some love with Warhammer 40K. Wasn't for me, but yeah, I even got back into X-Wing as well a little bit. Got some Republic going. Still have my lat, which apparently is like super hard to find right now. I shouldn't say apparently because I freaking run a store. I know that.
You probably make some money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could probably sell it on the side.
Maybe.
But yeah, Crisis Protocol has been something Matt and I have been super into lately. Fun game, really. Like, definitely not Legion as far as like everything.
Right? Well, it's so funny because Legion is such a unique game in of itself. But if there was a game I had to put out there that was kind of similar to Legion, not in all the ways, but like I could definitely see that Legion and Crisis Protocol are like second cousins. It would be those two.
They have the same eye color.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. Like they've got the same structure, but don't play or act at all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's some similar things. But I think that why was that a big thing for you, just playing different games? I guess.
Well, like part of it comes with running a store where it's like, okay, well, I sell these things. I should probably know, what I'm selling. That'd be helpful. So I also just wanted to get as much experience with different kinds of games and different approaches. And I feel like also it added some validity to the podcast a bit where I could talk about, oh yeah, this mechanic in Legion, it kind of got it was kind of born of this idea that appears in this other game that's been around much longer. But it also like helped me understand like what is good game design. Because there's other games I didn't mention that I'm not going to mention to like dog on any other games really, but there's other games on the list that I've tried that I just didn't like. Like there was a pirate game that I'm super into pirates. Everyone knows this that ever talks to me. Tron and Pirates and Halo. Come on. And Star Wars, of course.
Like the big four.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I tried this game and I was like, oh gosh, this is you remember that meme where they're showing SpongeBob the inside of a burger? It's like, you forgot and in the show it's like the ketchup or whatever, the pickles, I think. But it's like, you forgot the funny. And in this case, it's you forgot the fun. Like it's this miniature game without any fun at all.
Yeah. Oh, geez. That's kind of exactly it. I mean, it also helps to like get you away for a little bit if you need a break.
Yeah.
But yeah, we also wanted you guys just to know like we're gamers at heart. Like Legion is our home, but like we want you guys to know like your other games are welcome.
We're just like you.
Please understand that.
We have an off-topic tab on our Discord for a reason.
We do. We absolutely do. Like we just want everybody to know that because we do play other stuff. Legion is our home, and it is definitely the one that we enjoy the most. So we're not gonna get off topic on that, but we just figured we'd let you guys know.
Yeah.
Because like there are fun things, but I do feel the same way you do, where like I remember, so in school you study topics, you could want to be like a tort lawyer, be doing contracts and working on those things, but they still require you to get a general knowledge. Same with like architecture, like that's what I'm studying right now, is to become an architect, and even though like I may never end up using some of that knowledge, having a lot of the general knowledge really does help to get an idea of how things work. So playing these other games can very much translate into Legion. Now, not always, because with Legion and with all games, the objective play and the way you get to the end and actually win is influenced in many different ways by different factors. So attacking, defending, line of sight, cover are not always the best. One thing that I think could use work if I was going to critique Legion is line of sight sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's, and the reason I say that is because other games do it much more simpler. But with Legion, it's a little bit more harder to understand. Now, that being said, I do think that the cover rule makes Legion one of the best games in the world. I will say that hands down. And I say that because it makes it so much more tactical. Like, your decisions are so much more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
People can disagree, but that's something that, like, I have come to. At first, when we were learning the game, dude, I remember that was such a problem for us.
Well, because like we would look up something and be like, this directly influences this.
Dude, I remember we'd be texting back at like 2 a.m. Be like, no, but this thing says this is RRG, and it's like, no, but this is this.
But then the developer said this. It's like, okay, well, I guess what they say is king.
You were reading that in the rule book? It's it's actually in the RRG.
Yeah.
Not the
Don't you read the forums?
Yeah. But I think now, looking back at that knowledge, I have a much greater appreciation for those rules with Legion, because it feels more grounded to me, and it feels more like my decisions matter. Now, that's just my opinion, and that's not to dog on anybody else's, but there's things that I've come to appreciate more and understand better
100%.
About the game.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's something that, like, no matter what game I go to, I always come back to that. It's like, I may like this thing more than Legion, but Legion is better at this than that thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like, you can compare, and, like, yeah, there are some things we can nitpick and critique on Legion, like, 100%. There's going to be things in our favorite game, after playing it this long and this frequently, that we just needs a little love, needs a little attention, right?
Let's be real, snow speeders needed a change for a while. Same with Wookiees, and now they're in a good place.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I agree.
But as vice versa, there are things other games do better as well.
Well, I guess let's talk about that then. What is your hands down favorite unit in Legion?
Ooh.
Like, you have to pick one.
Favorite unit.
Gun to your head, like your favorite unit. Too late, bang, you're dead.
You're gonna give you time. It's hard to think about that, because I've been actually really enjoying so many different people right now. I struggle to pick, but I have to pick either the AAT or Dooku, and I think I'm going to go with Dooku.
And you haven't even played Dooku in a bit, though.
I know. It's so sad. He's just so expensive. He really is. But Dooku Ball is great.
Yeah?
It's really
okay.
good.
So what about Dooku makes you just love the boy?
So going back to what Mark Rosewater talks about, he says there's like your Timmy players, your Johnnies, your Spikes. Spikes are your super ultra competitive that are just playing the meta because that's what it is. Spikes are trying to pull off combos and do cool things. Timmy's just want to smash you and throw a lot of dice and do a lot of damage. Dooku kind of does all of that. He's very much like a control piece that can just do all things. He goes first because he's got cunning if he wins the pips. He can put away your activation token so you have to fish it back out again. His attacks are devastating. Master of the Force 2, when you've got 3 Force abilities, is just absolutely wild. And his lightsaber is so good. Like, Makashi Mastery is just out of this world. Taking away Mew Pierce against a Jedi or a Mandalorian or somebody, it's just ridiculous. So,
yeah, it's so annoying.
And his command cards, like the control, being able to... one thing that like is huge in other games, but not... Well, in some games, but not a lot, is movement. And interactions are, in most games, important. Dooku does a lot with that. Being able to scatter people with his basic lightning and then move and perform move actions like at speed 2 with characters is just absolutely devastating. And I love the control that he puts on there. He's this control piece that if your opponents get the chance, they're going to fire at him, because if he's off the table, they've just eliminated something big. But when you can get him to work perfectly fine, you can get massive damage off. You can use his 1 pip, move, throw 5 red die, search crit into somebody with Pierce 2 and kill the entire unit, while lightning another boy over here and scattering all of the guys that are left alive into the middle of nowhere so they don't get any cover anymore. There's something just beautiful about it, and I can't deny that he's probably one of my favorites. I think outside of just feeling like the imposing control character he is in the Clone Wars, he's also just a fun, amazing piece to have on the table. And when you back him up with just a line of B1s and these just chonky boys that just don't want to die, he's my favorite.
Nice.
What about for you?
I also love
favorite?
Dooku. Dooku is my favorite.
Really?
No.
Welcome to the Dooku podcast featuring Kyle and Matt.
Okay, so this is hard for me because I feel emotionally attached to so many. I actually have thought about this for a while. Like if I had to say which one my favorite unit is, I've been thinking about it for a while. Padme.
You know, I actually thought you were gonna say either Kenobi or Padme.
Oh really?
I knew you were gonna say Padme.
Oh really? Dang
I
it!
kinda
I thought it was gonna be like this hot thing that people were like, "He didn't say Anakin." Oh, I do love Anakin, but Anakin's nothing without Padme. And I love the saber tank, but the saber tank ain't nothing without Padme. Oh, Padme is just so great. She can. Okay, let's from where do we begin? Okay, let's just say the only thing I don't like about her is that she has white saves, but that makes sense. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying I don't like it. But she has authoritative. So if you give her a token, if you were to issue her an order, and you're like, well, her command card says I have to, but man, I really need to activate Anakin this round. Okay, no problem. As long as he's in range 2, authoritative passes that token, and now you issue that order to Anakin instead. Fantastic. We're talking about exemplars. Sharing any green token from range 1 to 2. Oh, man. Let me just say, if clones still had standby sharing, I probably wouldn't like Padme as much because it wouldn't feel as impactful. But now that is taken away from just clone troopers, Padme's authoritative standby sharing is just a godsend. Even if you don't run Anakin, you can pass it to the tank. You can pass it to Kenobi. You can pass it to Rex. You can pass it to your ARC troopers. You could do dodge. You could quick thinking. Like, oh, there's so many things that Padme has a toolbox that you're just like pulling something out, and if you're looking for a screwdriver, you find like a box cutter, you're like, yep, that'll work, and you just throw it.
You need a knife, but you pull out like a blowtorch.
Yeah, exactly. And so it just she's just always useful. And for 90 points, I mean, like, she is probably the best support character in the game, in my opinion. And she's not even a support; she's an operative. Anyways, what I'm saying is, like, I think just with her toolkit, it's the best. And then even if you were going to go with just the Anakin Padme route, Anakin attacking every round because you can't shoot that standby off, and Anakin's perfectly in range. Anakin's popping off, dude. So
something about 6 red dice when you've got tenacity on him with Pierce 3 is pretty good.
Yep. Agreed. That is definitely my favorite unit, Padme, and honestly, one of my favorite paint jobs I've done too, so that's cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah. Okay, so talking about our favorites, what is our least favorite unit in Legion?
This is probably the hardest one for me to pick because I don't know. For me, I kept thinking, who is it that I hate to play, or who is it that I just hate playing against? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I find that a lot of the characters I hate playing against are also ones that I'm like, yeah, but that's just because I like them when they're on my side of the table. Yeah. Like, it's always fun to play the AAT. It's never fun to play against the AAT. So I'm gonna go with the unit that I hate playing the most.
Yeah, I think that'd be the fair. Yeah.
Yeah, can't get behind. And I'll be honest, it is a difficult one. You know, I really do hate to say it, but it might be Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
I hate to say it. Like,
that hurts me personally. That feels like a personal attack, Matt.
It's either that or I don't even know, man. It would have to be like the Empire Snipers. In fact, you know what? No, it's not Boba Fett. It is the Empire Snipers, okay? I hate them so much.
Really?
They are so... let me explain why for you. Because so back in the day, so when Kyle and I first started, the big talk in the game early fall was Death Troopers, Shore Troopers, Tauntauns. Those were big things, because going into the first Worlds, the game ended up kind of being Wonder Twins and then Veer's Empire lines. And so Veer's Empire lines, or Krennic Shore lines, whichever you're choosing to run it on that time, were great, but they all like every list was just starting with who's your commander and then 3 sniper strike teams. And at least the Rebels have surge hits, so that one black die you have hypothetically is hitting 5 out of 8 times, which is great. 5 out of 8 means you're probably going to be rolling pretty decently.
Yeah.
Granted, there's the white die, so it brings you down, but that one is going to hit, so at least it gives you a suppression probably. Then you look at the Empire boys. They lose their red die saves. they lose surge offense and get surge defense. So that way they don't just turn into droid troopers. And they get 2 black dice. Well, back in the day when that was the meta, you could just feed them aim tokens for days, and then you could pull the strings. You could have Veers giving out aim tokens. And to be completely honest, I understand they're timing neutral. When they go is not always the most important thing. If you pull them out of a bag, you don't really care. You want to make your shorters go. You want to make your commanders. But I just hate it every time I've had to play them. I always feel like outside of sitting on an objective, they don't do anything for me. I don't have a fun time. Yeah, they cap the objective. But, like, sometimes I'd rather just have a stormtrooper do that. Especially now if I'm running, like, Iden Shorelines. Yeah. Or I have B1s that can do it for literally cheaper than strike teams. I have always wished I could put something else in that slot other than them. Yeah. But most of the time they just end up getting taken because it's the cheapest option and I need to make sure I have activations. For example, I just got to say this one last thing. I played them over the tournament. Like, literally during that the day of play we had like a week or two ago. Do you know how many times I actually was able to roll a hit with my 2 sniper strike teams out of 3 games?
Twice.
Actually, that's exactly it. It was twice. It was literally twice. Aiming and shooting and giving other aims and then shooting and then doing all this stuff and then coordinating fire into aim tokens passed to them. Oh, it just feels so bad. And I get it. There's high velocity and stuff. So I theoretically get why they are counter meta right now with clone dodge sharing and all this stuff. But I personally dislike running them, and I don't think I'll ever run them ever again. Well, I'll run them if I need to until something else comes out and I can just run other stuff. In fact, maybe I'll just start running full spec ops units, or not spec ops, but
scout trooper
units instead.
That'd be interesting because I went up against a full Rebel Commando recently, like a full unit of Rebel Commandos. I'm like, who does this? And it was actually kind of good. So
would have never been a thing a year ago.
Yep, but the point changes and rebalancing really comes in clutch there. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a bonus question that's tied to that.
Okay.
Least favorite upgrade, because there's like trooper upgrades or equipment. Any upgrade you're gonna put on a unit. Like, what's your least favorite one?
Like one I just never use, or one I've used and it like hasn't performed for me.
Either or, really. Just like what do you
Hunter.
just Hunter? I hate Hunter.
And I get why Hunter's there, because the idea with Hunter at the beginning was I'll give it to my bounty hunters, or I'll give it to my snipers, and I'll try to take out big multi-wound units instead of just picking off, troopers or whatever, which is fine. It's fine, but I think it's either gotta be Hunter or grappling lines or whatever.
Yeah,
because grappling is just not. It's just not a thing anymore.
See, it's interesting you say that, because like I've actually been looking at Hunter a lot lately, because these multi-wound units I'm constantly going up against, like Wookiees, Mandos, B2 battle droids, and I'm like, man, if I put Hunter on Anakin, would that make him even better? Because like before on like these trooper units it wouldn't work, but because they actually have a wound token, right? I wonder if I can get some use out of that. So it's interesting that you say it's the worst, because like, wow, I've been lied to. I've been lying to myself.
Well, yeah. I mean, I totally get it, but there's something about taking offensive push that I would just prefer more. Because offensive push, you can still get your move, aim, and then attack. If you're doing melee, you can still... Well, I guess it still technically works the same, but I just feel like Hunter used to be this thing that I took all the time, and I haven't really taken it very much.
Yeah, but I also agree with you, because like when was the last time I took it?
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I don't feel like it's a bad thing. Like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff in Legion right now that's forgotten gems. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I had a friend in high school who was always getting the brand new video games. Like, every time there was a release, he would get it. And so he was just kind of hopping from game to game, and I know he liked a lot of them, but he never really, I guess, got the full play out of a game. I kind of feel like that's how a lot of stuff in Legion is right now, where it's like, there's a lot of great stuff, but as soon as I've had this one thing for a second, I'm just going to hop onto the new thing. And that comes with power creep and all that stuff, but there are some really good gems. Like that Vader list I ran, I still hate Op Vader. You know what? Actually, I might take that back. Vader might be my least favorite.
Oh wow,
Dude,
I
well,
agree.
just Commander Vader.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a pain. Like, it was fun when he could do damage, but he just didn't very much. But there's some old gems in there. But then there's also some garbage.
Yeah.
I guess what about for you? Because like, that was my least favorite. What about for you?
My least favorite unit is probably Han Solo.
Okay, I know. Marshall would like to know your location.
Yeah.
But why is that?
Well, first of all, it comes from the understanding that I don't regularly play the Rebels, sure, and then I do sometimes, but not a lot. And then I also don't play at all the other two factions. So like, I couldn't speak to Boba Fett if he's really that bad because I've never played with him. But for Han Solo, it's just really frustrating because like it takes so much to get him rolling. You have to take the land speeder to get him that, that cover one, or, get him up into the middle of the battle and give him armor. Or you have to take Chewie to make him relevant, but then that defeats the purpose of having a cheap commander, of that low points. So it's just kind of weird that when you take Han Solo, you have to tack on another 100 to 150 points. So it just feels weird. And his abilities are kind of lackluster. Like Uncanny Luck, great, but you're still rolling white die.
I think you said it best in the last episode. Unlucky luck.
Yeah, unlucky luck.
Unlucky luck.
Yeah, it's just like, you could definitely see Uncanny Luck was a predecessor to Danger Sense, and Danger Sense is just so much better. Like, I kind of wish he had that instead. But that won't ever happen, considering that also Lando's now getting Uncanny Luck. So, unlucky luck.
Yeah. Like, if you could have both outside of command cards.
Yeah.
Fine. Go for it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've tried actually Han Solo and Chewie I will say this, in skirmish, I like him because he's already there. He's already doing damage. And yeah, he has Gunslinger, really cool. Pierce 2, but he only rolls 2 dice. Sharpshooter 2, so if he rolls 2 hits, those 2 hits are going through. So that is cool. But it's just like, at what did it cost? Everything.
Right?
Half my list.
So this is a question for you. With the Han and Chewie thing, I have to ask you, how do you feel then about them in comparison to K2 and Cassian?
They just do it so much better. They have like a lot of the same mechanics, but K2 and Cassian just do it better. Like, Cassian has the long range. K2 wants to be at long range and kind of do his own thing sometimes, but if he gets shot at, guess what? He has armor and red saves, so it's like fantastic. So it's just weird. And his gun is suppressive, which is super. Well, you have to take the upgrade, sure, but it's just super good. But that also feeds an entirely different. Like, that feeds a list, right? Cassian and K2 feed like this infiltration Pathfinder Jin list. Han and Chewie don't really feed a list. There's no identity for them, in my opinion. I would love to be shown wrong. Marshall, fight me. But I just I don't know. Like, in my personal play experience, I don't like Han Solo. That's just what it is.
I can totally get behind that. Especially, like, I've seen you play the clones a lot. So I get it. It's just not the play style also. But also, like, I've seen him work, but it's not because he's doing the work.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
And as for favorite upgrade, it's a toss up, but I think it goes
least
to
favorite upgrade.
Or sorry, yeah, least favorite upgrade. It's a toss up. It's just like any grenade. Like, just any grenade.
Do you remember when we first started and we always took grenades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, why are we wasting 12 points?
Yeah.
It was even more then because they hadn't been changed yet. So if we took frag grenades on everyone, that's like 4 or 5 units on average. That's like another trooper.
Man,
like,
it's so weird to think about that too. Because, like, do you remember that? Like, snowtrooper frags. That's another hidden gem that's like still pretty good. But I remember that used to be like a thing. People used to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna run snowtrooper frag grenades and just flamethrower everybody."
Yeah, and like I've said this in the Discord, I intend to make grenades great again. I intend to make them good somehow. But I think the unit you do it with is like ARC troopers. gain that surge to crit, you're already wanting to be in close range.
You're already scouting too.
Yeah, so I think it might work with them. And again, I'm just gonna say this. These are our opinions. If you disagree, that's great. Let us know. Like I'm interested. We're interested to hear your thoughts on it. But yeah, I think and if I had to go any deeper, it's smoke grenades because like I see no merit to that.
Oh, man, I think about all the games I've played the past year, which, it's probably not it could be maybe 100 actually. That's crazy to think. Yeah, it's probably around more than 100. It's a lot of games, but out of all of those, I've seen smoke grenades used once, and it was with clones, and it was like the guy he hadn't played clones very much. It was like his first or second time, and the token went off, and the token didn't do anything. It just didn't. He was out in the open, and he suddenly got light cover, but his clones didn't have suppression, so I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess it's just cover one. I can still move up and shoot you. It was just this thing that just didn't quite work, I think, the way they needed it to. I think you could totally do it if you were like, if you change the way smoke tokens work. Like, make it line of sight blocking if you're so far away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're beyond distance 3 or something, you can't shoot them. That would kill a lot of range 4 guns. There's some stuff you could do.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I think how they do it is that they just make a new card. It's not smoke grenade. It's like enhanced smoke grenades or something like that. Because what are you going to do? Errata it to make it do a completely different function, really?
Well, I mean,
or like maybe. Oh, I guess what you're saying is, now I'm thinking about it more. It's not just that they provide cover 1, but like if you're at range 3, it provides line of sight blocking too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like to work as kind of a mobile line of sight blocking. Now, I get that with this game, it could be crazy like that. Maybe like. Because let's take a look at like limited viz. I think limited viz is a good example of a condition that's taken quite often.
Yeah.
Unless you have like a gun line, then you're just not. You'd rather shoot. But like where I play a lot of like forward moving units, especially with a lot of my army, I like to have that as an option. Especially if I know, okay, that's an Empire list that wants to shoot at range 4, or that's a tank that's gonna be shooting range 4.
Yeah.
Well, if I get to within range 1 of that thing, it can't shoot me. So, or I need to move up. My army's weaker, and I need to move actions. I take it. But if there was a reason to take the smoke grenade to get like line of sight blocking within range 1 of the token, make it that like range 2 to 3 thing. Like if you're within 2 to 3, you can see inside. And then it provides light cover. If you're within 1, it provides light cover. But do something different with it because it has potential. Same with grenades, but it's like droid poppers. Don't get me started on Ion. Don't even get me started on Ion, okay? Everybody in the freaking world comes to me and says, hey, I hear you play droids. I made an Ion list. And guess what? It doesn't perform. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be blunt about it.
Here's a blue
pill. yeah, blue pill, red pill. Yeah. Red dice or Ion. Yeah. But I guess, that's very interesting.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, we just want to... what?
Well, let's talk about your favorite moment.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
One last subject for the road. Favorite Legion moment. And then we also talked about our least favorite moment, but I'm going to modify that. It was just like something stupid. Like, because obviously we could talk about our least favorite moment, and we can all, obviously between the two of us, like name like the same 2 situations. But it'd be more interesting where it's like this is just stupid. How did this happen kind of thing. And
so maybe like goofy moments.
Yeah, I'll give mine after. So I'll give my 2. So my favorite moment was probably there was a game that we played that I remember just like, oh, man, this is like this is like kind of making me choke up thinking about, because I don't think I ever told you this, but there was one game where we played and it was like, oh man, we had just started the podcast. We were playing pretty regularly, and we had played a game, and then we were driving home. I was driving home, and I was just like, dude, like, I have a best friend. like it's so cheesy and stupid, but like that was like one of my favorite experiences with Legion, where I was like, this stupid game made me like so happy, and it was like just a really cool experience. So yeah.
Oh.
Shut up.
Dude.
Never speak of this.
Delete this podcast now.
Don't you get soft on me, Private.
Oh, man.
But anyways, and then I'll kind of give an example of a stupid moment. This happened recently, where we're kind of getting into this Crisis Protocol game, and I'm like looking at these minis I want to paint, and then I look at my clone trooper unit, my Phase 2 clones, and I painted them, but I haven't cleaned them up. So like the color streaks are not even, they're not even lines and stuff. It's just like all like, just like still ugly looking. And every time I pull them out, I'm like, don't look at my Phase 2 clone troopers. They're not ready yet. And you know how long I've been doing that? Over a year. Over a year, I've been telling people, don't look at my Phase 2 trooper units because they're not finished yet.
Just paint them.
I have been. Today I sat down and cleaned him up. I finished Anakin because I was going to paint. I need to paint Anakin. And then I started working on my Phase 2 troopers because I even started ARC troopers. And I was like, I just don't want to touch Phase 2s. I want to work on something new. So, yeah, I have a backlog. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there was a stupid moment where I was like, gosh dang it, I need to paint my Phase 2s. So yeah. I have been. Anyways, your turn.
So that's, I don't know, man. There was some good moments. There's some good memories and some hard memories. I think for me, if we want to go like the wacky moment, I think it was, man, I'm gonna go with this weird one moment that was so memorable for me because it's something that I never thought would happen, but it did. So Josh and I were playing a game. This might have been the first time I ever played Josh. And everybody who knows me knows that I have all 4 factions. I don't have everything for all 4 factions, but I have enough to play. And I wanted to do a Jin infiltrate list. So I did a Jin infiltrate, had a bunch of rebels, had tauntauns, had the gun, and we're on our Geonosis terrain. And Josh ran clones with Kenobi. And so I got Jin in there super early, and Kenobi turned to just boom, boom, / dead. Killed Jin so fast, and I was like, well, shoot, now I have my generic commander, but I can do this. I can follow up and do this. So I started playing the objective, but to try and tie Kenobi down, I kept moving into melee with him, and Kenobi had all these dodge tokens. So rather than just withdraw and get shot by clones, I decided to keep punching Kenobi. Every rebel trooper unit was just dying because Kenobi would be like, I spend a dodge, I roll defense dice, oh, I deflect and kill 3 of your minis. I spend a dodge, I deflect, I killed 2 more of your minis. So Kenobi is sitting there acing my rebels off the table by dodging in melee and getting that Saracen mastery. Like, it's one of those moments that I had where I remember that so vividly, is this like goofy moment of just like, what the heck is going on here? Like it felt so much like Kenobi, like defending everything, and just my guys go to punch him and he cuts an arm off.
What a white
My
knight.
guy goes to kick him and he loses his leg at the knee. It was just this weird moment where I was like, what the heck is going on? And then I was like, I remember Josh looking at me and going like, this has never happened before. This has never worked so well. And he actually ended up wrecking me in that game. And because I think I ended up getting in with my tauntauns to against his clones, but his clones ended up punching my taunts to death too. So it was just a wacko game. But it was super memorable. It's just one of those goofy things where it's like, this can happen in Legion.
Yep.
I really enjoy it. And I think the best moment for me was actually the first big week we had back from COVID, when everybody was here.
That was cool.
Because as you guys know, I'm super into terrain. So like for the community, like every time I see a piece of terrain that I'm like, that's really cool, we should use that, I make plans to buy it, and I do. And so I've spent probably $1,500 to $2,000 on terrain for the store lately, just for the community here. But that first week back, I had all this new terrain stuff. It was all painted. People were coming in, and we had all the tables filled. And I looked around, and I was just like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like I had that moment. Like I can't describe it as like the same moment as like a parent has, but it was that moment of not necessarily just accomplishment, but to look around and be like, look at this group of people that's come together for something that we mutually love. And I don't mind hanging out or playing a game with any of these guys.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. Like I think that night I didn't even get a game in because I was just letting other people hop in and get games. But there was like 12 people that first week back or whatever, and that was a special moment where I just felt so happy to have people in. And then there's other moments like on the Discord where like when Diffs joined, when Cupcake joined, like just there's moments on the Discord where I'm like, wow, like we have a really cool group of people, and this is something really special.
Yeah, I'd like to change my answer. It was also that day. I mean, I like you and all, but that was actually, I remember I remember that, especially for me, it's not exactly that day, actually. It's probably that tournament we did in October. That second tournament we did. Where we had to do a little bit of
Oh yeah, 'cause
nuance with
finagling for
Yeah.
COVID. Yeah.
but seeing that the community was still there and strong. So basically the same sentiment, but on a different day. Like that is actually a cool moment because it's like the same feelings as my first answer, but like when you put it like that, I'm like, oh no, that's true. Like that is pretty magnified. Like it's not just one friend. I have like a community of people that I could like talk to about this stupid toy game.
Yeah, like this family that we have around here,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that we hang out with, and it's such a cool thing to have new people join as well, and get all the history of what's going on, and I'm sure like you guys at home have probably seen that like as your own communities have grown, right? Like I would imagine, and it's a cool thing to see.
Yeah. Gosh dang it, you got me feeling things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what we want to talk about, guys. Thanks for a solid year. I mean, it's only up from here. We're going all the way up. We start from the bottom, and
I think
I
those are
quoted
two
like,
different songs.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was like,
Don't make fun of me.
Literally, my mind was like, those are multiple rap songs, not even the same.
Just,
I'm all the way up. Started from the all the way up.
oh my gosh. Anything you want to say?
No, just thank you so much, guys. Like we
Yeah.
really couldn't have done this without you, and we're so excited to move into the next year. I mean, look at all that happened during 2020
Yeah.
of all years. Like things are only up from here.
Agreed. But yeah, guys, this has been the 801st podcast, 801st Legion podcast. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye.